Prior to going up, you said that you needed to go to space to heal. I know you're only a few minutes removed from this.
I feel super connected to love.
Goodness. I will never be the same.
I'm much better now that the ladies are back from space.
What were they up there, 10 minutes?
It's so cringy.
Look at us, we're very wealthy. Don't we look great? Admire us.
Katy Perry jumped out of the aircraft and kissed the ground in a painfully cringe moment that has been roasted online.
She essentially took a roller coaster ride.
Well, it was very profound. I don't know if you've seen Katy Perry talk about it, but she's basically a guru now. Let's not minimize this. Let's celebrate female astronauts.
That's the other thing. There has been female astronauts.
Let's not minimize this.
But if Katy Perry started singing and I was trapped in the vacuum of space, you better believe I'd find a way to end it.
What did they do?
I thought it was condescending. It was belittling to women.
Lots of other people in the media were embarrassing themselves during this ordeal. Oprah Winfrey actually wept as she watched the all-female team launch into space.
This most amazing feat ever for mankind. Womankind.
The 11-minute space flight that was touted as some kind of divine feminine gift to humanity.
That was one small step for womankind, one giant leap backwards for mankind.
The journey itself was brief, just 11 minutes from launch to landing, with only a few moments of weightlessness. But the way these women spoke about their experience afterward, you'd think they had single-handedly established the first colony on Mars. What made this mission particularly notable wasn't the technology behind it. Blue Origin had been sending tourists to space for years by this point. It wasn't even necessarily the all-female aspect, as women astronauts have been breaking barriers in space since the 1960s. Rather, it was the extraordinary disconnect between the actual achievement, wealthy people paying for a brief suborbital flight, and the grandiose narrative constructed around it. In promotional materials and post-flight interviews, the women repeatedly emphasized how their journey would inspire generations of girls to pursue space careers, despite the fact that their path to space had nothing to do with scientific or professional achievement and everything to do with fame and connections. The flight followed the standard Blue Origin trajectory: a vertical launch, a brief period crossing the Kármán line, the internationally recognized boundary of space at 62 miles above Earth, and a parachute-assisted landing back in the West Texas desert. During those fleeting minutes of weightlessness, the women took videos, held up peace signs, and Katy Perry reportedly sang "What a Wonderful World," moments that would later be packaged into heavily produced social media content, portraying the journey as a profound, almost spiritual experience rather than an exclusive amusement park ride for the ultra-privileged.
I've had so many people reach out to me and say, because you did it, it makes me think I can do it too.
You know, it's so funny. She said she's heard from women and girls who have said to her, I didn't realize this is something I could do. You know how I know that didn't happen, Megan? Because it's not something they could do. Because they're not friends with Jeff Bezos, right? Like, take up space! Their message for women was take up space. You guys are taking up too much space already.
What made this particular space venture unique wasn't the technology or even the all-female aspect. It was the unprecedented backlash it received, not just from regular people, but from fellow celebrities. Olivia Wilde reposted an image of Katy Perry dramatically kissing the ground after landing with a clear tone of ridicule. Amy Schumer joined the mockery by joking that she was added to the crew last minute while she was on the subway, highlighting the elitist nature of the venture. Even Martha Stewart couldn't resist throwing shade, sharing a throwback video of herself experiencing zero gravity on a specialized aircraft, essentially saying, been there, done that, without the multi-million-dollar price tag or self-congratulatory press tour. This peculiar case of celebrity on celebrity violence, as some commentators put it, is remarkably rare in an industry where public figures typically avoid criticizing each other. The sheer absurdity of the mission's framing had broken, an unspoken rule of celebrity solidarity. When Martha Stewart is trolling you, it's a clear sign that something has gone terribly wrong with your public relations strategy. The mockery wasn't limited to a few stray comments. It became a full-blown social media phenomenon. Comedians created parody videos imitating the women's emotional post-flight interviews. Memes comparing the 11-minute journey to more mundane experiences flooded Twitter and Instagram. One particularly viral comparison noted that the women spent less time in space than it takes to cook a frozen pizza. Another pointed out that roller coasters at amusement parks provide a similar feeling of weightlessness at a fraction of the cost and without the self-congratulatory press tour. The criticism was especially pointed because it touched on a nerve in American culture: the growing divide between the ultra-wealthy and everyone else. During a time when many families were struggling with inflation and rising cost of essentials, watching celebrities spend millions on what amounted to an elaborate joyride, and then demanding acclaim for their bravery, struck a discordant imes. Note, as one viral comment put it, "I'm just trying to afford eggs, and they're acting like floating for 10 minutes makes them Marie Curie."
Space mission this morning. That's end time shit. Like, this is beyond parody. For what was the marketing there? And then to try to make it like, I'm disgusted, literally.
And you know it's bad when other celebrities come out and mock you. Like that
Piling
almost,
on.
celebrity on celebrity violence almost never happens. But we're witnessing it right now.
Olivia Wilde reposted an image of Katy Perry kissing the ground. She was acting like she got back from Apollo 13.
It's so much money to go to space.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who can't even afford eggs. What are they going to do up there that has made it better for us down here?
The Blue Origin controversy reflects a broader ethical question about space tourism in an era of economic hardship for many. As one critic observed, it's so much money to go to space. There's a lot of people who can't even afford eggs. The WOM. Spectacle of wealthy celebrities spending enormous sums on brief joyrides to space, then expecting adulation for their bravery, struck many as tone deaf. The women's insistence that they weren't just taking up space, but making space, rang hollow against the backdrop of a venture that seemed defined precisely by its exclusivity and inaccessibility. This tension exists within a larger debate about billionaire-funded space companies like Blue Origin, SpaceX, and Virgin Galactic. Proponents argue that private investment in space technology will eventually lead to innovations that benefit everyone and make space more accessible. Critics counter that these ventures represent misplaced priorities, billions spent on space. Tourism, while pressing problems on Earth, remain unsolved. Both Bezos and fellow space billionaire Elon Musk have faced criticism for focusing on space, while issues like working conditions in their Earth-based companies remain contentious. The environmental impact of space tourism adds another layer to the ethical questions. Each Blue Origin launch burns a significant amount of fuel and produces emissions that contribute to climate change. While the company has emphasized its use of liquid hydrogen and oxygen as relatively clean rocket fuels, the overall carbon footprint of space tourism remains substantial, especially when considered as a purely recreational activity. For celebrities who often speak about environmental concerns, participating in carbon-intensive space tourism without addressing this contradiction seemed hypocritical to many observers. Despite these controversies, space tourism is likely here to stay. Multiple companies continue to develop their capabilities, with plans for more elaborate experiences, including space hotels and longer-duration orbital flights. As the industry grows, the question of how we talk about space tourism will remain relevant. Should we treat it as what it is, an exclusive luxury experience, or continue to cloak it in the language of exploration and achievement?
Last second, they added me to space. I'm bringing this. It was in my bag, and I was like on the subway, and I got the text, and they were like, "Do you want to go to space?" So
Katy Perry held a flower. Supposedly she sang.
Katy sang "What a Wonderful World."
She did?
Isn't that nice?
Come on.
She sang "What a Wonderful World."
Had I been one of the chosen few revolutionary women, I probably would have just jumped out and let the void of space either suck me in and destroy me, or just begun my descent to Earth at terminal velocity and probably caught fire on the way down. You know, either way, there are many options.
Martha Stewart, God bless Martha Stewart. She posted something online because she went up in a flight that achieved zero gravity.
I boarded a Boeing 727 aircraft called G-Force One and experienced what astronauts feel when they reach zero gravity.
It's a complete troll. Everyone's trolling them now. Gayle King, upset, had a few things that she needed to explain to those of us who don't understand what a hero she is.
Please don't call it a ride. That is not a friggin' ride. Whenever a man goes up, no one called that a
You're
ride.
eligible.
It was called a flight. It was called a journey, because a ride implies that it's something frivolous or something that's lighthearted. There was nothing frivolous about what we did. What it's doing to inspire other women and young girls, please don't ignore that.
There's nothing frivolous about what we did. Let's see how it went on board the Blue Origin spacecraft.
Flynn, I got
with
you.
her daisy.
I got you, Flynn.
Rather than acknowledging the criticism with grace or humor, the participants doubled down with passionate defenses of their journey. Gayle King became visibly agitated in interviews, insisting, "Please don't call it a ride. That is not a freaking ride. Whenever a man goes up, no one called that a ride. It was called a flight. It was called a journey." She argued that calling it a ride implies that it's something frivolous, and emphasized that there was nothing frivolous about what we did. This response only fueled further mockery, as critics pointed out that the women had essentially taken a very expensive roller coaster ride that was entirely remotely controlled. King's invocation of gender disparities particularly backfired. By suggesting that male space tourists were somehow treated with more respect, she overlooked the fact that wealthy men who've taken similar brief trips to space, including William Shatner and Jeff Bezos himself, had faced plenty of ridicule for their own post-flight hyperbole. The difference wasn't about gender, but about presentation, claiming historical significance for what was essentially an expensive recreational activity. Katy Perry's response was equally dramatic. Upon returning, she kissed the ground in a moment many found performative and claimed the experience had fundamentally changed her. "I feel super connected to love. Goodness, I will never be the same," she declared, adding that she brought a Daisy into space because of her love for my daughter Daisy and her love for Mother Earth. She even suggested the courage it took to go to space might help her finally get my ears pierced. The disconnect between these profound claims and the actual 11-minute experience left many viewers cringing. In subsequent interviews, Perry doubled down on the transformative nature of her experience, describing how seeing Earth from space gave her a new perspective on humanity and our place in the universe. She spoke about feeling the unity of all living things and claimed the journey had fundamentally altered her approach to music and life. For skeptical observers, these grandiose statements seemed disproportionate to the brief journey and reinforced the perception that the celebrities were more interested in the PR value of their space trip than any genuine exploration or scientific interest. Lauren Sanchez, perhaps the most privileged of the group as Bezos' fiancée, offered vague descriptions of the experience as quiet, but then also really alive, while emphasizing the girl power aspect of the mission. Critics were quick to point out that her presence on the flight seemed directly tied to her relationship with Bezos, rather than any particular qualification or merit. In several interviews, she positioned herself as a champion for women in aerospace, despite having no background in the field beyond her relationship with the Blue Origin founder.
They've gone next level. The montage of them about them.
There, it's dark. It's like death.
And I'm so proud of us. I really am proud of me.
Flowers for me. I brought a daisy because I have so much love for my daughter Daisy, and I have so much love for Mother Earth.
If I can do this, I was telling these guys, I might even now get my ears pierced. I've never gotten my ears pierced because that hurts.
I hope they can see the unity that we modeled and replicate that and understand that we weren't just taking up space, we were making space.
The reason that Katy Perry is not technically an astronaut right now is because none of the people in this capsule could actually operate anything. It was all being remotely controlled. So it was cool. They took a very, very expensive, very, very cool roller coaster ride.
Lauren Sanchez was also reduced to tears by the experience.
6 women just did the same flight that he did.
Oh, I just want to keep hugging you.
We duplicated the trajectory of Alan Shepard's flight back in the day.
In case you didn't know, Alan Shepard is famous because he was the first American to go to space in 1961. So we don't celebrate the people who do it as on a tourist trip 60 years later. We celebrate the people who were the first to do it. Gail doesn't want us to say that she took a ride, but that is in fact what she did. She took a ride on a remotely piloted craft. Anyone who denies my achievement is sexist.
The entire episode raised serious questions about what it means to be an astronaut in the age of commercial space tourism. Traditional astronauts undergo years of rigorous scientific training, physical conditioning, and must demonstrate exceptional skills under pressure. By contrast, the training for this Blue Origin flight reportedly consisted primarily of practicing how to get into and out of the New Shepard capsule over 2 days, essentially learning to buckle seatbelts. None of the women could operate any part of the fully automated craft, yet in interviews, some seemed to suggest they deserved the same respect as pioneering astronauts like Alan Shepard, whose historic 1961 flight trajectory they claimed to have duplicated. This comparison to Shepard, the first American in space, a naval aviator with extensive test pilot experience who later walked on the moon, particularly irked space enthusiasts and historians. Shepard's 15-minute suborbital flight represented cutting-edge technology and genuine risk in 1961, occurring at the height of the Cold War space race, when space travel was dangerous and unpredictable. By contrast, Blue Origin's system is fully automated, extensively tested, and designed specifically to make space accessible to untrained civilians. The Federal Aviation Administration recognized this distinction years earlier when it tightened the official definition of astronaut to exclude most space tourists. Under current guidelines, to earn astronaut wings, a person must not only travel beyond the Kármán line, but also demonstrate activities during flight that were essential to public safety or contributed to human spaceflight safety. By this definition, the women on the Blue Origin flight were space tourists, not astronauts, a distinction that several of them seemed reluctant to acknowledge. This reluctance speaks to a broader cultural phenomenon, the conflation of consumption with achievement. In many contexts, spending money on exclusive experiences has replaced developing skills or contributing meaningful work as a marker of status. The Blue Origin controversy highlighted this shift, with many observers questioning why we should celebrate people for purchasing tickets rather than for contributing to scientific progress or human achievement.
Earth looked it was so quiet. It was just quiet.
And now we're supposed to celebrate her crossing new barriers for women, meaning boinking a billionaire and getting a free ticket to space for 11 minutes.
It was belittling to women. And
I'm still stuck on the fact that Gayle King actually used the word astronauts. You are there on a vanity project of Jeff Bezos and his fiance. They got in their special Oscar de la Renta designed suits, laid down in a capsule, and came back in 10 minutes, you guys.
They admired the universe, and what they were expecting was for us to admire the fact that they were rich enough and famous enough to have been granted this utterly, utterly vacuous experience from which they learned absolutely nothing.
I don't think you can describe it, because, you know what I was saying? It was like quiet, but then also really alive. And this right here is the moment that they've been training for. 2 days, becoming a crew, becoming a team.
But the training, it all comes down to, literally they learned how to buckle their seatbelts. And I asked my team to poll, what did they do during their 2 days? Their tasks, they spent the past 2 days practicing how to get into and out of the New Shepard capsule.
This fundamental disconnect revealed the core problem with the mission's publicity approach. What could have been framed as an exciting personal experience became a PR disaster when packaged as a groundbreaking feminist achievement. One commentator put it bluntly, "The accomplishment is not in the hands of these women. These women did nothing. Truly, they could not have possibly done less for this 11-minute voyage." Another added, "That's like me calling myself the flight crew because I went on Soarin' at Epcot at Disney World." The mission's attempt to position itself as empowering to women and young girls particularly backfired. Gayle King insisted the journey was inspiring other women and young girls, while Katy Perry claimed many had reached out saying, "Because you did it, it makes me think I can do it too." Critics found this laughable, pointing out that the average woman has no path to space tourism without extreme wealth or celebrity connections. You know how I know that didn't happen? Because it's not something they could do because they're not friends with Jeff Bezos, one commentator noted. In their eagerness to claim historical significance, the participants overlooked the real women who had already broken barriers in space, professional astronauts who had earned their positions through years of scientific education, military service, or technological innovation. The first American woman in space, Sally Ride, had a PhD in physics. The first Black woman in space, Mae Jemison, was a doctor and engineer. By positioning their tourist experience as somehow equivalent to these genuine achievements, the Blue Origin passengers unintentionally diminished the accomplishments of women who had truly pioneered space exploration. The PR strategy also failed to read the room regarding wealth inequality, framing an activity that costs hundreds of thousands of dollars per seat as empowering to ordinary women and girls struck many as tone-deaf at best and cynical at worst. Rather than acknowledging their privilege in being able to afford such an experience, the women spoke as if their journey represented some kind of democratic opening of space to all women, when in reality it remained as inaccessible as ever to anyone without extraordinary wealth or connections.
We are the Taking Up Space crew. There's 6 of us, all women. It's a historical flight to space because it's the first time that all women have been in space.
The accomplishment of Blue Origin is that Katy Perry went to space. Do you see the difference? Do you understand the difference here? The accomplishment is not that, it is not in the hands of these women. These women did nothing. Truly, they could not have possibly done less for this 11-minute voyage.
It's space tourism. The fact that they're trying to sell it as some revolutionary thing is fucking hilarious. Yeah, first all-female flight crew. It's not a flight crew. That's like I'm calling myself the flight crew because I went on Soarin' at Epcot at Disney World. Did you know I'm also a paranormal investigator because I've been on the Haunted Mansion at Disney World approximately 6 times?
Feels like you hand-selected a couple of friends to go do this. I mean, it should have been a lottery system like Willy Wonka where just 7 random people
pull out some guy who's not supposed to be here.
Just a cashier at HEB, someone from MS-13.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Get him in. Someone from Tren de Agua, and Lauren Sanchez, and Gayle King, and
What began as a publicity stunt for Blue Origin and a status symbol for its participants has become a cautionary tale in celebrity PR. The mission's failure wasn't technical, the rocket performed perfectly, but rather one of perspective and presentation. Had these women approached their experience with humility, acknowledging their privilege and the purely recreational nature of their journey, the public reaction might have been different. Instead, by reaching for historical significance and feminist empowerment narratives, they created a disconnect that audiences instantly recognized and rejected. The Blue Origin controversy ultimately reveals something about our changing relationship with space itself. Once the ultimate frontier requiring exceptional courage and skill to access, space is increasingly becoming a playground for the ultra-wealthy, a transformation that many find unsettling. When the early astronauts spoke emotionally about seeing Earth from space, their words carried weight because they represented humanity's collective achievement and took genuine risks to advance our knowledge. When today's space tourists express similar sentiments after brief, safe commercial flights, those same words can seem hollow, not because the view is any less spectacular, but because the context has fundamentally changed. As space tourism expands, with more celebrities undoubtedly following this path, the Blue Origin fiasco offers valuable lessons. The final frontier may be space, but the more immediate challenge might be navigating the tricky terrain of public perception. In an age where authenticity is valued above all, even the wealthiest celebrities can't buy their way out of a PR disaster, not even by escaping Earth's atmosphere for 11 minutes. As we watch the evolution of commercial space travel, one thing remains clear. No matter how high you fly, social media gravity will always bring you back to Earth. The story of the Taking Up Space crew will likely be remembered not as a milestone in women's achievement, but as a moment when the public drew a clear line between genuine accomplishment and purchased experience. And perhaps that's the most valuable lesson of all, in a world increasingly defined by what money can buy. Some things like respect and admiration still have to be earned the old-fashioned way.